Welcome back to the Believe in Iowa State podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Carter.
And I'm your host, Cody Van Lillo.
Cody, we are at game 10 now. So now we sort of know what this team is. Obviously, with Iowa State, unfortunately, we're fortunate to be 7-2, but man, 25 players out to injuries or playing injured, man.
Yeah, I was saying, like, if you would have thought that Iowa State would have gone 7-2 at like in preseason, that would have been a great thing for the fan base to hear. But given what we've seen out of this team, starting out 7-0 and then losing two straight games, it seems that it's been a little disappointing for the fan base. But I mean, there is still a path for Iowa State to get into the Big 12 championship, and the path is still alive for the college football playoff if you're the Cyclones.
Yeah. No, it's definitely still out there. We just got to go and win out. Obviously, that's easier said than done. But I mean, this team, if there's any team that can do it, it's definitely this Iowa State team. And obviously, Bo Freeler said it best himself that they hold themselves to a higher standard. And the post game interviews after the game. So they know that the defensively they know that as a higher standard. Um, they need to be playing at a higher standard and offensively just keep doing what they were doing in the Kansas game.
I mean, it's at best. I think we've seen like what the absolute worst this defense can be
Hmm.
because for one of the best defenses in the country, this was a really bad game for them. But I think this should be like if this is it's low as the defense will play, I have pretty good hopes for the Cyclones to get back on the right track and pick up a win on Saturday.
Completely agree, man. Now enough about the Kansas game. Let's get into this Cincinnati team. Um, so do you happen to have the roster? But I think that we're gonna go a little bit through the roster to see who um, is gonna be able to possibly be a trouble for the Cyclones.
I don't right now, but I'm actually taking a look at some of the injuries that you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
Some of the injuries that were like mentioned in media availability with Coach Matt Campbell and the rest of the coaching staff. So Matt Campbell said that Benjamin Bramer is questionable with the leg injury. Same thing with Caleb Bacon. And then Drew Surge is questionable as well, but we don't know what exactly it is. And obviously, we know that Daniel Jackson is out for the year with the leg injury. But I have heard good things about um, Dylan Baird because he did suit up to play last week.
Yeah.
He didn't play, though.
Yeah, I heard good things about Barrett as well. So that's definitely going to be a good thing for the offensive line, who basically who is struggling. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm gonna share my screen. We're
All
gonna
right.
look through this roster real quick. We're gonna look at offensively at some of the players. Um, 1 second. I know this is bad.
Okay. I mean, Cincinnati. I think the main thing you're going to be looking at is the Brandon Sorsby. That's going to be the main
Yeah.
player, and then Xavier Henderson is a pretty solid wide receiver for Cincinnati. 51 receptions for 620 yards and four TDs on the year. So he's definitely going to be the number one target for Brandon Sorsby, who has been playing solidly. I mean, he's got 66% completion percentage, 16 touchdowns, only five interceptions though.
Yeah, and and last week for them was sort of uncharacteristic. The one thing that you can do with the Cincinnati Bearcats team is turn them over. I believe they turned the ball over. Yeah, they West Virginia forced 3 turnovers last week, and that's one of the main reasons why West Virginia was able to control the game and pull away. Not to
Yeah.
mention that they have West Virginia has a very good running game. But yeah, um, I think just with this team, I don't. This is obviously what Cincinnati is a team that you can't take lightly, but there are some places where Iowa State can get some take advantage. Like what are you sort of looking at in this game? Like what do you think some keys are for this game for the Cyclones to get their eighth win on Saturday?
I think it might be time to just let the offense just go, just hang up like 30 or 40. If we saw the defense lately, I think it's
Yeah.
time that Rocco Beck and the two wide receivers and Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, they just ball out and they hang 40 on Cincinnati.
Yeah, bro, it's ball out time. I mean, these are like, at least for Jalen and Jaden, these are their last few games of their college careers. So I mean, just ball out. Running backs too. It's time for them to step up and Abu. This is hey, look. This is his time to shine now. I think this is about to be his time. We're about to see a very very motivated Abu. I think the next 3 weeks, man.
Yeah, I mean, last November, it was last year actually. It was the same case where Abu Sama found form in November, and obviously we all know Snowmageddon. But I think this is the part of the year where it's good to have those three running backs, just so like they are going to get their moments, and I think this is going to be Abu Sama's moment to really shine.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, like we've been saying all year, there's going to be a point where one of these running backs are going to be needed, and obviously his time is now. Um, so for me, I'm gonna give my three keys offensively, and then we'll do three keys defensively. But my three keys offensively is to definitely. I think we should pass to set up the run. I think passing to set up the run is definitely gonna pull those corners and safeties back, and it's definitely gonna lighten up the box, and then that means that there's gonna be running holes there. As long as the offensive line gets a push. So I will say that's one of my other keys. Second key is definitely we need to be more aggressive in the red zone. We cannot we got to stop kicking field goals in the red zone. So offensive line, hey man, get that push up front. Running backs run hard, get the right reads, and yeah, be more aggressive. And three, as always for me, start fast whenever you get the ball. Just like last week. Last week was the most ideal start that we've had in the last few weeks, man. Get that started, go down the field, score a touchdown, and make Cincinnati get on their heels.
Yeah, um, those are kind of the same things that I had as well. The big thing is red zone offense. If you really
Hmm.
just play more aggressive and you have better calls, and I'd rather go for it on fourth when you're in the red zone, and even if you don't get it, it's basically like a deep punt. If you
Right.
like pin a team inside the 10-yard line, I'm fine with that because I mean you force them to extend their drive a
Right.
couple of extra yards, so I'm fine with that. But just show Cincinnati that you're gonna have to do a lot more than just forcing us to settle for field goals to win the game.
Definitely, man. And I'm gonna start with my defensive keys. Defensively, um, wrap up, tackle, first one, because just man, last week was rough. But I mean, tackle, wrap. I should just say wrap up, tackle. Two, make sure that you're in the right alignment. Obviously, we had a lot of more inexperienced players, but I think they definitely had like a detailed week in film study. So I think definitely pay attention to your keys and your assignments to where you need to be. And three is be tough and definitely I what I want to see is more blitzes, man. We cannot. We have to get some type of pass rush somehow, some way, bro. We cannot let the quarterback be back there for 10 to 15 seconds, diagnosing, going through every single read, man. We have to get to him right then and there, like that. We have to do something like that. So those are my three.
I mean, I had those same things. Yeah. Maybe like if you incorporate more of a four down, like a four lineman kind of alignment, and then you bring one of your corners in, that'd be really ideal. And yeah, that's basically what I see. But just still playing like tough, that's gonna be the big thing. And you mentioned wrapping up. I think just playing simple, like keep it simple. Don't like commit any deep penalties because we've seen the last like also play clean but play aggressive. I think that's the overarching thing that I want to see out of this defense is play clean, but you still want to be aggressive because these last couple of weeks has been very uncharacteristic. I think
Hmm.
penalty wise, so just playing clean will be really good to see, but just continue to play as aggressive as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think just overall as a collective, if we just play clean, then yeah, we'll get back to our winning ways like we were before, in the beginning of this or the first 7 games of the season. All right. So what do you think is going to happen in this game? What do you have any predictions on what you think?
Um, this one's gonna be closer than like I think a lot of people would predict, and that I mean Vegas has the line as Iowa State a double-digit favorites, but I think it's going to be deceptively closer than expected. I think it's just because Cincinnati's going to give Iowa State some difficulties, but I think Iowa State will find a way to pull out the win ultimately. And I mean, you're playing in prime time at Jack Trice, and Iowa State has, I believe, 4-0 when games kick off at 6 p.m. or later, 2-0 at home.
Yeah. So I think for me, I think I'm gonna go with the Vegas number. I mean, Vegas nailed it last week when we were only a 3.5 point or 3 point favorite at Arrowhead, and Kansas ended up winning straight up. So I'm gonna go with us winning 31-21.
Hmm. I'm gonna go 34-24.
Okay, I like that score. Yeah, getting to 8-2, and we'll stay alive. Let's look at
Mhm.
some of the other games this upcoming weekend. There's a lot of games that have meaning this week.
Yeah. Um, I think, I mean, starting with the Big 12, you got a Friday night matchup early on here. You've got Houston going to Arizona. Both teams are fighting to stay bowl eligible as Houston's 4-5, Arizona's 3-6. But Arizona's 1-5 in the conference. So who would have thought that Arizona would be this bad in in preseason?
Apparently, I did see a tweet from Jason Shear, who is a writer for Arizona, and they're saying that Brent Brennan might not make it, might only be here for one season.
Hmm.
So I don't know how. I mean, Arizona has been an absolute train wreck.
Yeah, I mean, from what they were last year. I mean, Arizona's lost five straight, coming from Texas Tech, and I mean, most recently getting trounced at the Bounce House by UCF.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
man.
yep. Meanwhile, Houston has won three of their last four, and most recently, 2 weeks ago, beating Kansas State.
Yeah, I mean that was a crazy crazy game. And that definitely helped us when they were gaining on us. But I mean, like we said, Houston. I'm glad we're not playing them now, man, because Houston is on a roll right now. They found something with Zion Chris. Their running game is doing well. Their defense is good. So, I think Houston is going to win that one. They're gonna.
Yeah,
I think Houston's going to get to a bowl game.
yeah, and I think with Houston, the way they've been winning these games, like outside of like with Utah and Kansas State, those were really close games, and they just were managed to stay in it for. They wanted it longer than the other two did, and I mean their gritty wins, beating Utah 17-14, and then beating Kansas State 24-19. So that game will probably be really close, and I think Houston will find a way to get that extra play that will win them the game. That will be the difference.
Completely agree.
Speaking of Utah, they will be heading to Boulder to take on the Colorado Buffaloes at 11 a.m. on Fox. I believe this is the big noon game.
Yeah, and apparently for some reason there are a lot of people that think that they could drop this game. But I honestly don't see it since the quarterback that was playing last week is out for the season. I'm guessing that was because that quarterback played last week and they gave BYU a scare. But I don't think with Luke Wilson, I don't even think they have a chance in this game. I think Colorado covers this easily.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado. If I mean, if you're Iowa State, obviously you probably ideally want Colorado to drop this game, but I don't think it'll be this one. I think
Right.
Colorado just has too much for Utah to handle, and I mean, Utah's gonna almost get no offensive production from Wilson. I think just Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter will continue to just be the explosive duo, and Travis Hunter will continue to cement his case for the Heisman Trophy.
Definitely, man. Just with each win, I think that they say he gets closer and closer to clinching the Heisman.
Yep. All right. On to the 3 p.m. Window. You have the Baylor Bears taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers out in Morgantown. This one's a little interesting, but kind of want to get your take on these two teams and where they're at in their season.
So yeah, West Virginia came came out on the road with a huge win over Cincinnati. Baylor has had a turnaround of a season after losing to Iowa State. They've been on a 3 game winning streak. So I mean these are both coaches that both these fan bases they wanted them fired. I mean, and probably some of them still do want them fired. But I mean, they've turned their seasons around. Both have a chance to maybe go 7-5, 8-4. I think this is going to be a fun game. I think the over under is a little bit high for this one. I wasn't sure.
I'm gonna take a look. The over under is 58 and a half.
Yeah. So I think that's probably going to be like a. It's probably going to come down to the last possession. I'll say like a 34-28 or 34-27, something like that.
Yeah, I would expect it to be somewhere in that ballpark. But I mean, the crazy thing is, long shot, but West Virginia is still alive for the Big 12 title race, and it's just the mosh pit of teams with two conference losses: Iowa State, Kansas State, Arizona State, and West Virginia. So West Virginia could is still fighting for maybe a long shot and making it to Arlington for the Big 12 title game.
Which is unreal. Can you imagine if a 9-4 West Virginia makes the play? If they like hypothetically, if things were to go their way, they would win the Big 12 at 9-4.
I mean, it would have to come down to like your CFP rankings, and I don't know about that, but that's just the chaos of the Big 12.
Right, right.
We mentioned these two teams earlier. This will be a prime time game on ESPN. This is a 6 p.m. game. The Arizona State Sun Devils heading to the Little Apple to take on number 16 Kansas State.
I mean, I'm really interested to see what K State psyche is after that embarrassing loss at Houston to a few weeks ago. But I think we're gonna see a very focused K State this week, and I think Cam Scadaboo, I don't know if he's injured or not, but he might be hurt. But I mean, we'll see. I think this is going to be a close game. I still think K State wins this, but I think it's going to be closer than what people think.
Yeah, I think Arizona State's going to give Kansas State a run for their money. I mean, Kansas State is coming off the bye week, so we'll have to see how they are off the bye week because we've seen what happens when we were off the bye week. We looked horrible. I don't know if
Right.
that'll be the same tale for K State, but Arizona State, after pulling out a close win against UCF without Cam Scatabo, I think that boosted their confidence a little bit.
If anything we know about K State this season, they have been consistently inconsistent. So we'll see which K State team we get.
Yep. Into the nightcap for the Big 12, you have the Kansas Jayhawks heading into Provo to take on the number 6 BYU Cougars.
Yeah, guys. Don't let that 3-6 record fool you. Kansas is legit, man. Like they ran up and down, did whatever they want against us. And one weakness about this BYU team is their run defense. So I mean, if Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels can get it going, hey, maybe they could pull off an upset in Provo.
I,
But wait, we'll see.
I mean, yeah, the line for this game is actually, I think it opened up as BYU only being a 3 point favorite against the Jayhawks.
Yeah, so I mean, just with that alone, I mean, obviously Vegas knows something that we don't know. So it should be interesting to see um, how they come out and play. But I'm definitely going to be tuning into this one.
Yeah, for sure. This will be one to tune in for because BYU is still undefeated. They are one of four remaining undefeated teams in Division One. So they're looking to continue that streak and basically lock themselves a spot into the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, basically at 10-0, it's just like, well, yeah, nobody else is gonna come in. Basically, everybody else is gonna be coming down to the final week of the season to determine who is gonna be playing them in that. So we'll see what happens.
Hmm.
I want to take a look at the national slate because there are a few games um that are of importance. I believe Tennessee and Georgia play this weekend.
Yes, they do. I have the the full slate pulled up on the screen here, but
Gotcha.
yes, they do play. It is the 6:30 game on ABC. Tennessee visiting Sanford Stadium.
Ooh, in between the hedges. Okay, that's gonna be interesting. I mean, how is Georgia gonna respond after getting killed at Ole Miss last week?
Yeah, that's my thing as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they respond. But otherwise, it's sort of like a light week. Then I mean, I didn't really see any other games of importance. Because all the other games are next week, like Indiana, Ohio State, Clemson, and Pittsburgh. Basically, every game in the conference race is that are important in conference races are next week. So
Yep.
this is a pretty light week. Um, did you have anything basketball wise or wrestling
No,
wise?
actually, you missed out on something there.
What did I miss?
Number 25 Tulane going to Navy, for the
Oh
G5 race.
yeah.
Yeah, for the G5 race.
Yeah, Tulane. Yeah, Tulane is number 25 in the college football playoff rankings. Um, so I mean, for them to stay alive, this would be huge for them. I mean, their two losses. Well, now they have sort of have a bad loss against a bad OU, but they did take Kansas State to the brink, and they really should have won that game way back in week two.
Hmm.
So I mean, Tulane is sort of setting themselves up pretty nice. And with and Boise State is dropped a little bit in the college football playoff rankings, but um, they're looking to stay. It's going to be an interesting race for that group of five playoff spot.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna come. I think right now it's just gonna come down to either Boise State or whoever comes out of the American. I mean, you
Hmm.
mentioned Tulane Navy. I mean, Army's still right there for the American race. So I think I'm really interested to see how that American race plays out and see how they will match up against Boise State resume wise.
Yeah, I think Army's resume might get a boost since they do play Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium. I think in a few weeks, right?
I think so. Yeah, let me just make sure.
I think next
Yeah,
week.
Yeah, it'd be next week, but that would be such an important game for Notre Dame and Army. I think that game right there, whoever loses that game is going to be out of the playoff race
Right,
because Notre Dame loses, they're out because they have no
right.
conference championship race. And then for Army, they probably will take a ding that I don't think would be able to suffice, even if they win the American against Boise State and how they look.
Yeah, and Boise State is gonna have to come down to. I mean, they survived UNLV today, and it looks like that's probably who's their opponent, who their opponent is going to be, in the conference championship game. So it's gonna be a very interesting finish down the line in all these conferences, and especially the Big 12.
For sure.
Now, do you have any basketball thoughts or any wrestling thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this so within the past week, Uh, ladies continue to dominate. They continue to take care of business, and they actually will play tonight. They go up against St. Thomas, 6:30, and
Nice, nice.
yeah. And then for women's basketball fans for Iowa State, if you heard the name St. Thomas, it should be familiar because if I'm not mistaken, that was the school that last year senior guard Hannah Bellinger transferred into Iowa State from.
Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting, matchup for her as she faces her former school
No,
tonight.
Hannah Bellinger graduated.
I'm sorry, she
Yeah,
graduated from
she
that. My
graduated
bad.
last year, but that name was pretty recent. The school name, at least.
Right.
But yeah, the ladies will continue to dominate. And I actually made a joke to some of the women's basketball players that I need to see the whole team shooting threes like we're at the NBA All Star 3 point contest.
Be the lady, be the women version of the Golden State Warriors.
Basically, that's what this team looks like. And then for the men's side, this past Monday they took care of business against Kansas City. Now it was a bit of a struggle in the first half. Like
Hmm.
Kansas State was playing Iowa State pretty tough, but the second half the offense adjusted, the defense continued to play defense well, and I think we're seeing great things out of this men's team. Still relatively early, so it makes sense. But if the offense can get going like it did in the second half, in like the first half, play a whole like 40 minutes of that, I think they can prepare themselves to play against a team like Auburn, who just took down Houston this past week, and Houston plays a similar style of defense like Iowa State.
Yeah, man. I think, and just the fact that they beat a Summit League team like that, because basically all Summit League teams play a similar type of ball, just like we saw with South Dakota State last year in the tournament.
Hmm.
Um, and the fact that they and as you know, Kansas, if you didn't know, Kansas City is the leading vote getter to win the Summit Conference, the Summit League,
Hmm.
in basketball. So I mean, the fact that they be a really good team like that, I was like, because I saw when they kept hitting threes, I'm like, golly, I'm like, they are really good.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, that's something that that the guys can work on. But yeah. If you don't have, do you have any other thoughts about anything?
Yeah, this week is another week of just a lot of athletics. I mean, obviously, we just mentioned the women's game tonight, the football game on Saturday, but also tomorrow night will be the second duel for the Iowa State Cyclones as they take on Navy Friday night, 7 p.m. Now, with this one, I'm looking to see a much better lineup because the lineup
Mm-hmm.
last week was very disappointing. You had a bunch of starters out, but it was just an unacceptable result from the team, and clearly, Coach Kevin Dresser mentioned it in his media availability, talking about guys not managing their weight properly and other things like that. So, from what I've heard in training, the guys are like instead of and like so, there was a point where they weren't actually training, but they were measuring each other's weight just to hold each other accountable for
Mm-hmm.
weight management, things like that. So, hopefully, this gets the wrestling team back on the right track. But just a bump in the road last week, but it's a long season, so I am not worried about the wrestling team.
Definitely. All right, Clones fans, you heard Cody. Make sure you pack out Hilton to support wrestling. So that is our Cincinnati preview. Thank you guys for joining us on the live stream through Twitter. Make sure to follow us at our handles. Matt Campbell impersonator. I'm at SciTi Guy. Make sure to follow our um, five different social media pages. Believe in Our State Podcast. BLEAV on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. For Tyler Carter,
From Cody Vancilolo,
this is the Believe in Our State podcast. Roll clones.
go Cyclones.
Oh, press the round bell.